In this video, we'll start by looking at specialization and trade. So why do people specialize and why should you specialize? How do specialization and trade lead to greater wealth and prosperity? So if you want to increase your wealth and prosperity, it's important for you to specialize. So specialization is simply concentrating on the production of one or a few goods and services. Now, which of the goods and services should you concentrate on producing? You should concentrate on producing the good and service whereby you have comparative advantage. So comparative advantage occurs when a person or a country can produce a good or service at a lower opportunity cost than others. So when you have comparative advantage, when you can produce something at a lower opportunity cost. In other words, what you have to give up in order to produce that is smaller than other countries, simply because of your ability. It can be natural or let's just leave it there. Now, when you specialize, it enables the individual or the nation to make the best use of their limited or their scarce resources. You don't want to waste your scarce resources or use it in a way that is not optimal. You want to use it where your skill. It's like if you have an amazing voice, why will you choose to become an economics professor when you could be an amazing singer? And if you really understand economics, why will you choose to become something you are not really gifted in? You want to move to a field where you have comparative advantage over others in that field. So we all specialize in one way or another. In other words, we rely on others to produce most of the goods and services we want. You cannot at the same time be an economics professor, be an engineer, building your own car, be a medical doctor, and so on and so forth. In the world we live today, specialization is important. Now, whatever you become good at, the income you make, you now use that income in order to buy goods and services from others. So you trade your skill set, the skills you've developed, and the income you make, you use it to buy goods and services from others. You don't build your own houses. You don't become your own electrician. Someone does that, especially, let's say you are a medical doctor and you are a heart specialist. That's your specialization. The income you make from it, you now use it to buy things from others who have specialized in doing something else. Now, the primary advantages of specialization are that employees acquire greater skill from repetition. When you do a task repetitively, you do the same thing all the time, you really become an expert. You avoid wasted time in shifting from one task to another. So do the types of work for which each person is best suited. That is what specialization offers. So specialization also promotes the use of specialized equipment for specialized tasks. So trade, when you trade after making your money, when you specialize, trade directly increases wealth by making both parties better off. If it didn't, then no one will trade. If you are not left better off after you trade, you will not do it. So it simply allows a person or a nation to specialize in those products that it produces at a lower opportunity cost and to trade for products that others produce at a lower opportunity cost. So the idea is that everyone should simply specialize in producing products they can produce at a lower opportunity cost. Now let's move on to another section where we are going to look at some fundamental economic questions. You should ask that question for yourself based on your natural abilities or what you have at your disposal, what to produce. In other words, what should you study? Who should you become? The next is, how are the goods and services to be produced? If you've decided to become, let's say, an accountant, okay, you say, what? I think I'm suited for accounting. How am I going to become an accountant? And who will get the goods and services? In other words, who is going to employ me? For whom am I getting that education? Am I going to get a job at PricewaterhouseCoopers? Or where will I get that job? Or will I be employed by the government? Take another example. What should we produce? Should we produce more houses now that you have housing crisis? Now, how are we going to produce? What technology are we going to use? For whom are we producing? Are we producing it for the those who are making for the rich? Are we producing it for middle class, or are we producing it for those who have low income? All of that has to be decided. And now we have different economic systems which try to answer these questions. So you have, for example, the market economic system, you have the command and control economic system, and you have mixed economic system. For the market economic system, you have to decide who owns the resources. Private individuals own resources in a market economy, and the market decides what to produce, how, and for whom. So you can go to the market and buy based on your income. If you don't have the income, then you can't, because the market decides using the price mechanism. For a command and control economy, like in North Korea, the government owns all the resources, and a central committee decides what to produce, how to produce, and who gets what. It's all decided. It's command and control. And you have mixed, where the state owns some of the resources and the market or the private sector also owns some of the resources. You can see in Canada, some resources are owned by the state, some are owned by the private individuals. Now, who decides what to produce, how, and for whom? It's both the market and the state. And who decides who gets what? It's both the market and the government. So even if you don't have income in Canada, you can still get health care and things like that. So the government and the market play together. So in your personal life, you get to decide what you want to be. Now, how do you decide what you want to be? Generally, you look at the market. You want to move into a field where you are able to get a job at the end of your education. So you invest your time, your resources into becoming something that is marketable. Of course, you have to like it, but you have to make sure that you have someone who can employ you at the end of the day. You don't want to waste your time and produce something no one wants. So it's important to answer the question, what to produce, how, and for whom. Now, this is just some blah 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 concerning what I've just talked about. If you take a look, it's the same thing. So that's it for this lecture. We will continue talking about this in class. Have fun.